We've had some players new to SWTOR lately asking what are good operations to try out. With that in mind, we're going to do a tier list ranking of every story mode operation in the game from a new player perspective. That more in this episode of the SWTORscape podcast from newoverlords.com. Our broadcast aspect today is EPC 475. And with me, a person who is certainly S tier, is Seema. Hello there, Seema. How's it going?
SEMA tier. It's going really well. We had a lot of rain today, which did not relieve the humidity though, so even to cool things off a little bit, but we still have horrible humidity right now, so there. And I also want to say new players, yes, but there are players that have been playing for a long time but still haven't gotten into group content. And if you want to start to get into group content, this is for you also.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. It's gonna be great.
It's gonna be great. So let's see. I am still working on my very tiny Marar. Whatever.
You're what?
And I've done like I don't know how long it's going to take me to finish that 15 days because I don't know how many I've done now.
Oh, the Muvor, Marvor.
Yeah,
The tiny
that.
Marvor. Got
Yeah.
it. I had me confused there for a second.
Yeah. I mean, like when I do get it, it's going to be a total surprise. It was today?
It's only going to take you 15 days, not in a row, but 15
Yeah, right.
days.
Not in a row. Exactly right.
It's
Exactly
like
right.
24-hour cleaners. Well, why are you closed? Not in a row.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I had real busy week in real life this week, so not a lot of times for playing games, but I have been trying to drop in when I think of it and feed this strange little animal that's out in public, but will soon be mine if I can manipulate it into, my pocket by feeding it every day.
Yep.
Or some days.
Lure it in with morsels of food
That I find, on the ground and on the floor of the kitchen.
3-second rule. Feed it to the Malvor.
Yes, yes, yes. So yeah, I'm looking forward to our discussion today. But how are you? How have you been doing, Max?
I have been doing great. Thanks for asking. I have been doing, let me see if I can bring it up here. Been doing PvP. I'm continuing
Oh,
my
that's right.
march
Yeah.
down the PvP track. You saw me in there earlier today getting some medals, but losing a match, but still getting medals. So I've on the lower level character, I've been doing arenas. You can see here I've completed 2 of the season weeklies, the decorated and domination, which is the wins and medals and matches. And I've done 10 out of 12. So tomorrow morning I'll finish the arenas. So I'll have 3 of 4. And then I'm almost done with a couple of the Warzone ones too. And I do those on my level 80 Sork. And I have been in some good matches lately in Hutball and in some of the turret maps like Alderaan and the other one. And I think is it Yavin? Yeah, I think it is. But been getting a lot of medals. Been getting a lot of medals even when not winning the match. So I've lost a couple matches, but still been able to get the medals because I'm playing objectives and other people aren't. And I keep yelling at them. I don't yell at anybody, but I try to be constructive. I'll say, for future reference, if you stay on the doors, you'll get medals. I typed that in earlier today. Because people don't get it, and then they're off fighting somewhere else, and then the other team is just clobbering us, and it made me frustrated.
So in the games that you played, though, if other people were also playing the objectives, would you have gotten fewer medals? Because then they would have gotten
No,
some medals?
no, no, because
Oh, okay.
it's mostly where you're standing. And everybody can get all of the points for those medals if you're standing. You're either defending or you're attacking. If you're capping a turret, you're getting medals. If you're standing on one of your turrets defending it, you get medals. And if your whole team is standing on a turret, like if everybody was just there for medals, you could take one turret, hold it the whole time, because you would have all 8 people just standing on it and healing each other and killing anybody who came by. You would all get like 8 medals, and you would lose the match, not by a lot, but you would lose the match. But I guess you do have to kill a couple people. There's a couple other things you have to do, but not a lot. You'll get like at least 5 or 6 medals just from defending.
Well, you could kill the people that tried
That
to.
would try to come to poke
Yeah.
you because they want medals, and everybody thinks that you get a whole bunch of medals. I think people gravitate to thinking you're supposed to be killing people in war zones, but you're not. You kill people in arenas, and if you lose an arena match, you will not get medals. You will not get 7 medals if you lose 2 arena matches and lose the lose the
Gotcha.
round. But had some really good arena matches. Had some fine Warzone matches. Just a more. I think I lost probably more than I won in just the few Warzone matches that I've only played 4. I maybe lost 3. 2 or 3 of them were losses. Like this last one, we only lost by 20 points in the turret match, which is not a lot, which means we could have won it if people had been paying attention because we were holding 2 turrets for the whole second half of the match, and then the other team took it back. But I felt pretty good about myself. I got to ask this question. So comment in the comments or jump in our Discord. Somebody just tell me in the chat room right now. You're on the Yavin turret map. I'm on the jungle turret, the jungle side. I'm there solo. They have stealth on their other team. I'm telling the other team, I was there for like the whole second half of the match by myself. Solo kill. I had to like solo kill at least one other person. And I'm like, guys, I'm here solo. They have stealth on their team. I, you know, it's somebody's coming to the turret now. I'm gonna have to fight this guy. Bang, bang, bang. I like have to like solo kill somebody. I'm like, I just killed somebody. I'm still solo. They never came, and we're like about to, lose a turret. They have all 7 people off running around the map and can't take another. Anyway, what do you call it? What do you call it? Jungle? Because I kept saying I'm at jungle. Nobody's here. I'm defending by myself. And somebody typed in chat, just say right or left. Okay. Well, when you get on the speeder and you come down and land, it's right or left. If you pull up the map, it's left and right. So you could say east and west. So Stask is saying in the chat room, east or west. I guess if you don't know what jungle means, it's more of a problem. I think is it jungle and ruins or whatever it is. If you look at it on the map, it tells you east or west would work, but maybe I should have done that. I do that for Void Star because it's a problem there too. You can't say left or right because depending if you're starting from the defending side, left is on the west. If you're starting from the if you're starting from the defending side, left is east. If you're starting from the attacking side, left is west. Yeah, but even that, I mean, yeah, so that's why I don't know why somebody piped up in chat and said, just say left. It's like, okay. Left what? left my wits at home? That is terrible. Anyway, so that's what I've been doing. That are mandatory fun nights and other stuff, but hammering our way on this Warzone stuff because here, let's check where am I at? I'm done with level 4, moving into level 5. I may even finish level 5 of the PvP season by the end of this weekend. All right. And with that, I think we can talk about some news.
Now, an Imperial News Network report.
One thing I thought was interesting, and I can bring it up while we're talking and show it to y'all, is not much is going on in the news, but if you look at Dev Tracker, one thing that you can see in Dev Tracker is there's still a focus on bug tracking and, keeping track of what people are saying, what bugs they're finding. But I did notice just a little interesting thing, which I will show you here, is if you look, the new username for the account that's explaining what bugs they are tracking and what bugs they are not is called QA Droid. So I don't think they had that before. I don't think it was called QA Droid, but that is there now. So that's a new account to follow or to watch for bug discussion, bug tracking. So these 3 were from QA Droid when last week all the bug tracking was done by Jackie. Usually you do that at a company when you're creating a forum account that multiple people can post from and multiple people can watch. So QA Droid, follow it, watch it, and that's where you can see your bugs being tracked.
Your favorite bug, yes.
Yes. What else? What have
Also,
you been doing with this next news item, Seema?
I'm here to tell you that Nar Shaddaa Nightlife is going on right now as we speak.
No way.
And it will be going until August 22nd.
Shut the front door.
The reason Max put it that way is because I have been putting a few tokens in the machines. And on my character here, Seema, I'm down to 0 of all kinds of tokens. So I feel like maybe I should just back away.
What did you tell me you were gonna do? Maybe,
But then after that, I said
pre-show.
I was going to go and buy another Max
A max token.
Emperor.
She already bought a max token. There are
I-
150 million credits for one
Yes.
max bet token.
Yeah, last week I bought one, and my advice to people was not to buy one. And that's good advice. You should follow it. Because, like, when I almost bought another one today, but I didn't have 150 million credits on this character.
That's crazy talk. Yeah,
It
good
is
good
crazy
thing.
talk.
Good thing you didn't have 150 million credits.
It's crazy talk, but it's also lazy talk. Because then you only have to.
You could just not even use your tokens like I do.
That's even lazier. Okay,
What do I got?
I got you. I got you.
Lazy? What are you talking about? I have
But yeah.
518 Kingpin tokens sitting on me.
But really,
now.
but really, there is kind of a lesson there, right? So it's if you're playing the nightlife games and you find yourself about to do something you wouldn't normally do, maybe take a step back.
That's right.
Maybe do something else.
Yeah. We don't want to
Because
say that
I
Seema's
mean,
got
I clicked it once and I was gonna click it again. I just didn't have enough credits on me, and I wasn't gonna go all the way back to my legacy, and withdraw. Because I don't want to withdraw the credits from my legacy because I don't want to lose my commas.
Yeah, you're in danger of comma loss.
Right. Right, because yeah, it
You'll get
wouldn't be
kicked
it
out of the
wouldn't.
Trace Commas Club.
Well, no, I would have to anyway. But yeah, you could definitely go down a billion really easy, 150 million at a time.
Yeah. Right. 150 million. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not long. I really
Yeah,
hope I
so
break even because I could really use the money.
well, at least I knew I wasn't going to break even, right? Because
Right. 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 Now, okay, so you
anyway,
can say you're down to 0 tokens now and you're going to move on, but next ops boss we kill, you're going to
right?
get another Emperor's
Yeah.
chip, and then you're going to
Yes.
have to put that in a machine. It's going to give you like
Yes.
10,000 Kingpin chips. You're going to have to put every single one of those in a machine.
And that just takes a long time.
And also in the news, as I've just been explaining, the PvP season is still going on. So the regular season, Galactic season ends in about 2 weeks. But the PvP season ends in about 74 days. So we're in the PvP season 3, even though Galactic season 2 is just wrapping up. So keep those in mind. You got 2 weeks to finish off the Galactic season, and you got a little over a month and a half to finish off the PvP season. Cool. In guild and community news, focusing on the guild this week in particular, we have a guild called lair, and it's one of those big gaming communities. We talk about it all the time. And I've said this talked about it this last week. It's coming up. It's actually starting tomorrow night. A couple things are starting. We have a big event that's a week of events that happens every summer. We call it Summer of Love because we're all, just trying to be friends with everybody, and make it a really positive event out there in the world. But what we do is awesome things in every single division. We have a bunch of in-game events. We're going to do some awesome stuff in Star Wars. All of that is starting this weekend. You can we've got a whole section built out in our guild Discord, aie-guild.org. You can go to the Discord link and you can see there's a schedule channel which shows all the stuff going on every single day. If you're a fan of Final Fantasy, FanFest is going on right now. The live streaming is going to be going on over the weekend of some of the FanFest talks, and our whole Final Fantasy community is going to be meeting up afterwards. As an example, to do a little postmortem on what they heard and what it's all sounding like. We have 3 D&D sessions, well, 2 D&D sessions and 1 tabletop RPG Star Wars session that's going on the following Friday. Next weekend, 2 D&D sessions going on this weekend. I think they're mostly filled, but there might be a couple open slots, so you can check that out and sign up for those. They're one shots that are all online. It uses like Roll20 and some of the tabletop stuff, Discord. And then Star Wars: The Old Republic. We're gonna have Tuesday mandatory fun night is going to be an edition of our Amazing Race. We've done whole episodes on that in the past, but that's a player run event. It is super cool. And Corley's running it again for this year. He's going to have us QA some of the clues and locations over the weekend. That's looking really good. We give away tons of prizes as part of that. Anybody is welcome to join. So that'll be Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Central. Wednesday is our very special event in all of the divisions and in Discord called Remembrance Day, where we talk about over the past 12 years that we've been doing this and 15 years of the guild, we've lost people in real life. So we sort of do a memorial where we talk about that, and we bring up good times and old times and celebrate the people that are no longer with us. And that's going to happen in Star Wars: The Old Republic in the Jurin Mountains on Alderaan is where we all sort of like line up while we're doing the Discord part, and we all just sort of like do a little slow walk while they're doing the slow walk in World of Warcraft and in all the other games. And then there will be a special ops night operation run of Eternity Vault and or Karaga's Palace following that memorial event, which is second or third annual Jana Memorial Operation. Jana was an officer for Star Wars: The Old Republic for us, a friend of ours who passed away a few years ago. And this ops night is something that gets run every year to also commemorate that. Mandalorian mercenaries recommended but not required. Mercenaries and power techs, because that's what Jana played. And it was pretty awesome. And snowballs recommended too. Insiders would know what that means.
Yes.
And then potentially on Friday night, I think we're doing a GSF new flight night where you can come with a level 1 character, and I think Machete is going to talk you through how to fly the ships and how to get into it, even with a completely fresh, completely new character and completely new ships. If you never played before, get a little bit of that under your belt. And then tons of stuff going on throughout the rest of the weekend. So we talked about a whole bunch. Get in the Discord, aie-guild.org. You can see the Discord link right there. And then our SWTOR section is down below, but the summer event section is up at the top. You can see all the channels and post in there, ask questions, and jump in. Yeah, flight school going on Friday. Super cool. So hope to see everybody there. I know we'll see all our Star Wars people there. Should be a good time. Shout out to our Discord and our chat room. We have a lot of chatter in the Discord over the past week, both for Star Wars stuff going on and a couple other games. There's been a beta launched of another game that we've done up behind the games episode on for a game called Coreborn, and we've been having some fun in there. But definitely podcast chat. I did a little bit of escape podcast chat for some cooking stuff even today, and then just a whole bunch of stuff going on in there. But thank you to the chat room too for coming and hanging out and with us, and it's always good to see you guys in there. And we will chat a little bit after the show as well. But now we get to do something really fun that we like to do, which is the tier list.
Blunt instruments, striking blindly out of fear.
That is from Dread Palace. Do you ever feel like a blunt instrument striking blindly? Or I do. I was thinking about this. I'm not new to Star Wars: The Old Republic. I know how all the operations work, but we've had new people coming in and saying, "No, I've never done this before. Is this a good one?" I've been, I've not even jumped into operations. I haven't been sure about what to do. We'll talk a little bit about that tonight. But I do feel this all the time when I go to any MMO and try to I'm hesitant to jump into group content, or I do jump into group content that I haven't done in a long time. Like even going back to WoW, you get into some of these and stuff is just happening. Stuff is just going on. And
Right. All around you. Yeah.
you're just like you're just like shooting things or playing my hunter in World of Warcraft and just like I guess everybody's running that way. I guess, look, whatever. I guess I'll run that way. But what we wanted to do, and I made a little tier list for us, is talk about all the operations in the game and specifically talk about which ones are easy and which ones are hard, and which ones you shouldn't feel any problem as a new player jumping into blind, and which ones you may need to do some prep on in terms of either gear or even like learning what it's all about. So we will go through that now, and Seema and I will do it live, and we'll see if we're all in agreement on everything we come up with. I'm going to move this over just a little bit so we can see what we're
And
doing
so,
here.
to be clear, we're not saying S level operations are the best operations. We're
Right.
saying they're the ones that are that you can most easily walk into without knowing how to do group content. Maybe in a pug with no voice comms, or you
Yep.
could be in a group with voice comms, which are most suitable for that situation.
Right. As a brand new player. So this is the new player ops tier list for new players. And we'll post the results out on the web in multiple places afterwards as well. These are sort of in order, and you're going to see they sort of shake out in difficulty a little bit in order. But we'll debate it, maybe shuffle things up a little bit. But that was I did a preliminary cut of this, and we'll see if how close we get to it by the end. But let's kick it off. Let's talk about Eternity Vault, first operation ever in the game. Operation came at launch, one of the old school ones and one of the classics. What's your initial take on Eternity Vault? And then we can talk about some of the stuff in it too.
Well, I can't talk about Eternity Vault without mentioning that after all this time, it is still one of my favorite operations.
Yes, it is
Um,
great.
Yeah.
It's good story, it's good environment, it's good voice acting. So I've always liked Eternity Vault, and it's I'm sorry here I slammed it in S tier even before Seema gets a word out of her mouth, but it's also I find very easy to do.
Right. And if you hear someone advertising on the fleet, I would say don't hesitate to accept if you want to get into group content. And then
Right.
most of Eternity Vault you can accomplish by just following people around.
Right.
But I would just make a special note that on the last boss, SOA, SOA, to prioritize following people around so that
Yes.
you can navigate. There is a little mechanic there with falling platforms that you have to jump from platform to platform, but don't be intimidated. Just follow everyone. Even if
Yeah.
you have to stop shooting so that you can
Yeah,
concentrate on your feet and the people. Because if you miss a platform, you'll fall to your death and you can't always be raised. You can't always be res because either the fight is in progress, et cetera, and just the terrain the way it is.
yes.
That's the only thing I would say.
Machete in the chat room says, "Thank goodness they fixed the bug when the platforms
Oh my
sometimes become
God.
invisible." Did
He gave it
they?
a mouth. He gave it a mouth.
You gave it a mouth. Yeah, Machete. That comes back. That comes back
Yeah.
all the
It,
time.
it's been back multiple times.
But yeah,
But I would just say if your group does wipe, Eternity Vault has a great feature where you get to ride a speeder coming back and you get to see a different perspective. Well, he's not the only operation that does this, but you get to see the sights of the operation from a different angle, and it's that part's just really awesome.
yeah, you're right. In fact, I almost recommend it. Maybe even if you complete the operation, jump in the lava and kill yourself just so you can ride the speeder back, and it's like weaves its way all the way through the whole operation, which is really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, standard 5 boss operation. The first boss has no trash even before you get to it. You just jump right in. You're fighting the big robot boss. You're fighting Garge, whose claws scored the canals of Salot. Look upon Garge and die.
I have so much I want to say about each of these fights, but we're not
Yeah,
really
we're
giving
not
you
gonna do
a
that.
guide. Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, so Garge is another one where you need to just follow people. If you're new, this is also one of those ones where it's not a DPS race. It's all pretty easy. You can get carried. So don't be afraid to be carried and just focus on keeping yourself alive and focus on where people are and following people. Because Garge is
Right.
the one where you kind of got to follow people and definitely Soa at the end.
And when people advertise on the fleet for they'll say if they want um if they don't want to carry you. Like they'll say it'll sound like this. They'll say, super fast run, blah 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 blah, guild group or whatever. If they're asking for super fast run, maybe that's not the one for you.
Right. Yeah.
They're
But then they
expecting
shouldn't be
people to
doing
show up and
story mode Eternity Belt anyway. So
well, they might have their reasons.
I got my reasons.
Well, I
Uh
mean, at different times in
yeah,
the
yeah,
history of the
it's
game, there's
possible.
been currency you can get,
Yeah.
or they could be taking guildy through or whatever.
Come with us anytime in
Well,
AIE
yes.
and we'll
Yeah.
take you in. We'll
Right.
take you in any of these. We might not
Right.
get all the way through it, but we'll take you in any of these.
Yeah, I mean, all of this stuff we're saying now doesn't apply if you're coming with us.
Right.
Yeah, you're welcome no matter what.
Okay, here's one. Lucy said we're gonna fight about this one. I won't put it. Well, I know where I'm gonna put it, but I'm gonna ask you.
So, okay, I have a well-known
As we're talking about Karaga's Palace for people that can't see the
problem
screen.
with Karaga's Palace, and it's the Rancor boss. I don't like that fight. I've never liked that fight from the beginning. However, the way it works now in story mode, it's almost pure tank and spank, which means the
Yeah,
simplest of mechanics. So I would not shy away from Karaga's Palace ever,
right. It's
really.
fine. It's fine. It's fine. The Rancor is annoying because basically you don't tank it. There's a few ads that come out that you can tank the tanking, sort of round up the cats, but yeah, because there's no tank, the boss, the Rancor itself just picks different people to sort of like face and do his swipes and claws, and everybody is supposed to run behind it because in the harder modes, when that big swipe goes across 50% of the platform, if you haven't run behind it, it it will swipe and do a lot of damage, and the healers can't keep up.
Right.
If if
In
he
story mode, not so much anymore.
yeah, so you can ignore it in story mode, and that's why we're gonna put it in an S tier. But yeah, if you the bigger problem, which makes it really annoying, is when it targets you, you need to stand still so everybody else can run behind. But people don't watch who it's targeting, and they try to run behind when everyone else is running behind, but the Rancor is targeting that person, so they turn the Rancor so it hits the entire group, and then the healers are like going nuts. So and Seema is the
Yeah, and
healer. The
I mean,
healers.
what I really didn't like about this fight in the early days is there is no, like, the main mechanic is he focuses someone and he beats them into ground. And as a healer, I don't know that's happening until they start to take the damage, or I see it with my eyeballs, right? Because I can focus target the boss, but there's no frame for the target of the focus target. So I could never. I felt like the main mechanic of the fight was not supported by the UI.
Right. Because it's switching targets constantly. You can't predict where it's going. Yeah.
Right. So for me to be successful at healing that fight, I was constantly switching from player targets to the boss to see who he's targeting. But
Yeah.
I mean, those days are gone really now.
The rest of the fights, this also mandatory S tier because it has one of the top 3 boss butts in the game, which is Foreman Crusher. So there's Foreman Crusher, there's the uh uh not Toth and Zorn, but Jarg and Sorno, the 2 bounty
Hmm.
hunters. That's a good fight. Easy. That's an easy fun fight. The Rancor, Jargon, Sorno, then you do the outside turrets, Foreman Crusher. Oh, there's the puzzle one, but that's really easy in story mode because you just shoot the droid, let somebody else take care of the puzzle because you don't have to do the puzzle. You just have to click the turret or click the panel. And then the last fight is also quite easy um, because you're just following around. I would say if you're a brand new player, all of this assumes that you're probably either going to be healing or DPS. If you're going to
Right.
tank anything, Um, even healing, you got to know a little bit about where the damage is going to come from. So DPS is the best way to learn. But if you're going to tank anything, you kind of got to know a little bit
I
about
would
everything.
say
If you're
if
gonna,
you wanted to heal and they were asking for a healer on Fleet for Eternity Vault or Karaga's Palace, I would say go for it.
yeah, yeah, definitely with this tier list. Also, even if you are a new tank, this is probably the list of places where you could go learn to tank. Also, but just be aware that you should probably learn the mechanics or let somebody know. We bring, like in our group, we'll bring in tanks that have never even entered the place before. We just explain the fight, and Corley is an awesome tank. It just says, okay, you just go over and do this thing, and works like a charm. All right, next one, your first introduction to fighting Cephas as a operations boss. What's your place for explosive conflict?
So explosive conflict has kind of a gets kind of a bad rap over time because people say it was real buggy when it came out and they like refused to go there, but I never really experienced that. Um, I think but explosive conflict I think would be really hard not to do not in voice
Yes.
because there's a pretty heavy the mechanics are pretty almost like puzzly on in explosive conflict.
Yeah, a few of the fights, the
So I would
minefield,
say
the tanks.
puggable for sure if they're going to be in voice.
Right. And if they're not going to be in voice, you could still probably get through it. In fact, I think we're going to put it in the A tier, because it's not very hard. But there are, it's not
Yeah.
S tier. It's not as easy as Kraga's Palace and Eternity Vault, because there's more to like understand a little bit about what do they mean by you need to stand on the tank?
And this
What do they
might
mean
be
by
a good
that?
time to mention that if you don't want to be the person that dies in every boss fight, because in explosive conflict you might be dead in every boss fight. If you don't want to have that experience or you feel like that would be too embarrassing, then that would be a reason for avoiding it. But I would say be philosophical. You're gonna there's things happening in explosive conflict boss fights that are just gonna kill you if you don't know what they are. So
Yeah,
accept that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or use this as a
And
as a list of where to watch an extra video or where to,
right.
prep a little bit.
But like Max said, he said that they're easy. So like in explosive conflict story mode, this damage is not high, and the DPS requirements are not high. So
Right.
if you go and you do end up dead a lot, the group can still be successful.
Yeah. You can get carried. Yeah.
Yeah,
So don't worry about it.
yeah.
Cool, cool, cool. And then you get to also fight Cephas at the end. And the Cephas fight is actually probably the easiest fight in that whole place. So don't worry about
Except
that.
for it has like yeah, just follow and do what other people do.
Yeah.
It has like 12 phases though.
It does have 12 phases, and there's stuff, but even the stuff that you can like stand in all the stuff these days, and Simo heal you.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, another one that's got some complicated stuff going on that bumps it down from the S tier, although it's not that hard, I would say. And I don't know if you agree, Sima, but Terra from Beyond, especially because of the last fight, I can't put it in the
I
S tier
I I think it has to be at least in the A tier. I mean, it can be
at
high because
most.
again, it's like explosive conflict. The damage is not high and the DPS requirements are not high. But if you can't participate in that last boss fight, I think you could wipe.
It is not in voice or without a lot of explanation. You could wipe that last fight even with a pug.
I mean, if you Google Terra from Beyond and you see the picture that people look at and use to describe that last boss fight, you'll see what I mean. It's just it's a positioning thing, it's a flying in the air thing. It's
You get sucked into a different dimension where the terror
yeah.
is being summoned from, and in that different dimension, you d- the there's no you can't fall. There's these floating platforms. I think there's like 16 or 24 of these floating platforms. You can't fall off of them. They're just like 2 meters by 2 meters each, but you also can't do damage to the things you need to do, which is his tentacles, unless you're on the platform with the tentacles. And how to jump from platform to platform and where to stand and where to not is very complicated to sort of explain.
And then it is a DPS race to kill the ads when they come up
Intisar is
because
suggesting Operator 9, which is another fight in there we'll talk about in a second. But yeah, the ads, which are the what are the I keep I call them something and then which is actually not their name. The ads in that final fight are these anomalies. There's like one anomaly for everybody, like 16 anomalies that show up around the whole arena as well, and you gotta, like, jump from platform to platform. There's these little teleporter circles that you're, like, leaping into that bounce you up to the next platform. Um, the other fight that they're bringing up, in fact, this could bump this down to the B tier. Would you actually die in Operator 9, though? Um, if let me think. Could you get
so let's
through
just
Operator 9
let's
even if you
just
have no
for
idea what's going on?
I guess let's define like S tier. We think you could be successful with no voice, but starting with A, you probably need to be in voice.
Probably, or yeah, or you'll be
And
dying more often and sort of be confused um,
right.
in some of the
And like
places.
Max said, you can look up videos and all that stuff, but I don't know. Not everyone can watch a video and go, "Oh, okay, I see what's happening." Sometimes it just looks like people running around in flashes of color.
Maybe we'll bump this one down to the B tier because yeah, the I forgot you do have like the panel and the circle mechanic, and without having seen that before, and without that being that complicates things a bit too. So the Operator 9 fight is sort of like Tron. You get digitized and sucked into the room where the processor unit is, which is kind of cool. That's actually what's happening. You can see you you know, out of 8 people, 2 people each need to take one of 4 colors, and then of those 2 people that have that color, when that phase for that color comes up, one person needs to be clicking a panel in the right way, and another person needs to be standing in the middle circle because you can't
Yeah.
click the panel without someone standing in the circle, and when to click the panel and how to stay and keep channeling the panel, even if it gets broken, can get complicated.
And I'll just say too,
Yeah.
like on the last fight, I know we already touched on that, but healing in that last fight is a little weird because nobody is out of range, even though your interface will tell you they are out of range. So you can
That's a good
heal
point.
across any distance. However, it is still possible for someone to be out of line of sight. So it's a weird healing experience, Terra from
Yeah.
Beyond the last fight. Or unique, I should say.
How about this one? The scum and villainy. Both the scum and the villainy. The scum part, super easy, barely an inconvenience. The villainy, slightly more difficult. This is a pretty good one.
Hmm.
With a the bridge boss will kill you. We hope, which isn't even a boss, but look forward to that. But this does get complicated because there's the Oasis town that can be a little complicated because if depending on how the group does it, if they do it, in story mode, you can do it an easy way, and if they do it the easy way, you just stick with the group and everybody just goes and does it, and it's easy. If they're going to do it the mechanics way, you break up into teams of 2 again, and that can be a challenge to figure out what's going on. So that one might be a little more
And
difficult.
you have to avoid the droids too
Yeah, right.
in
Yeah,
that
like weaving your way
Oasis fight.
around, trying to avoid the droids, trying to figure out where you're supposed to go, and then it's you and another person that are soloing a couple mini bosses. Gets a little weird, and they got to run to
I
the
would
end.
say if you run Eternity Vault in Karaga's Palace a few times and you start to feel like you can understand what's going on by looking at your screen, that you might be able to look at Scum and Villainy as an A. Because the individual fights are not hard as long as they do, like you said, as long as they do the Oasis one in a group.
And I would say anything B tier or even C tier and above, as a new player, focus on staying alive, figuring out where you're supposed to go and the mechanics, and deprioritize your DPS. Because again, a lot of these you could get carried. especially if there's the rest of the group is a solid group. So,
Yeah,
keep
and
that in
it
mind. If it's a whole bunch of new players, well, then you're gonna have to do a little bit more work.
Eflux is mentioning the fight with the coins, but even if you completely mess up your coin,
Yeah,
the
you
group
could
can
put
still be successful in
yeah,
that
you could
fight.
put no coins in, and the group could still clear all the droids with in story mode these days.
That didn't used to be true, but it's
Yeah, so that one's like a big. It's like a big vending area, and the coins that you're putting in are purchasing droids. There's 16 droids on the floor below. You can look through the window, and the more droids you purchase ahead of time by killing these wealthy buyers and getting their tokens, the less droids you need to fight. And some
I
droids
s-
cost 2 tokens and some droids only cost 1, and there's like a little panel where you're clicking it if
I
you
have it in
happen to
my
be
head
assigned the
that
token.
Scum and Villainy is a super long instance, and I know recently we've been
Yeah,
doing them
it is long.
in a short amount of time. But between Terror from Beyond and Scum and Villainy, I think they're maybe about the same length of time.
Hmm. I'd think Scum and Villainy is longer. I mean, just think how
I
long
mean,
that last fight is. And well, I
it
guess both of them
we
have a long last fight.
we used to say, a
Yeah.
Scum and Villainy pug is in danger of breaking up after it goes for so long and people can't stay and blah 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 blah, or you wipe a few times. But I think it's fine now.
There's more bosses in Scum and Villainy than Terror from Beyond, though, too. So,
Yeah.
you got the bounty hunters, you got, uh,
I always forget about the bounty hunters.
yeah. Yeah. So
But there's so much trash in Terror from Beyond. Oh well, never mind. We don't have to go
the first 2
through the whole
bosses
thing.
are really cool and fun. But again, on the second boss, the what's his name? The droid? Uh, Titan 6
Oh
stands
yeah.
alone. Titan 6 has no allies. Titan 6 needs no allies. You definitely watch where people are going because there's a little telegraph behind the rocks. You got to stand behind the rocks.
That's why I say start with Eternity Vault and Kraga's Palace, and when you start to be able to see, oh, I can tell when that um, telegraph happens,
Yeah,
I need to go here. But until you have that moment where you start to be able to connect visually what you see with what's going on with what you have to do, then maybe try Terror from Beyond and Scum and Villainy.
yeah. And then I think now we start to bump up a bit, both in difficulty and the amount of damage you need to do. Again, not too bad. In fact, I would even maybe put Dread Fortress in between B and C. I think initially had it in C tier. Um, it is complicated, but you could probably get carried through a lot of what's going on in Dread Fortress. Dread Palace, it gets a little crazy. You can't. But Dread Fortress, maybe a little bit more. Let's see, there's Nephra, who's nothing. We need to
No.
worry about
Oh
that.
yeah, that's Nephra, yeah.
There's
And
the
then
Draxus, Gatekeeper.
right, he's another phase fight, but I mean he has 9 phases, but basically it's just kill things that come out.
Yeah. You'll be assigned one of the sides. You'll just shoot things. Kill, kill, kill. There's what's his name? Um, who's your blood will lubric
Raptus.
no.
Oh.
The droid.
Oh, Corruptor Zero.
Corruptor Zero. There's Corruptor Zero, but that again, there's
Yeah.
waves of ads. You just shoot the ads, and then you're shooting the boss. It's
And there's big
story
lasers, but
mode.
I mean,
You
it's
can stand in
really,
them these
really
days.
that fight is really, really an opportunity to learn cause and effect of mechanics and where to go.
Yep.
But because you can mess it up and still survive,
Yeah.
you can mess it up once and still survive, but you might not be able to do it a second time.
And then is there another fight before you
I,
get
I
to
I just wanted to say another thing about Dread
monsters?
Fortress. Dread Fortress is part of the story of Oricon, which is part
Yeah.
of the story of everything, really. And
Belsavis. Yeah.
yeah, and it's really fun for that reason.
Yes. Definitely do. I mean, well, do them all. But Dread Fortress is integral. Dread Fortress and Dread Palace are integral to all of the original story of the game. So the original story of the game starts with your class stories on this part of it. Starts with your class stories on Balsavis, which unleash the Dreadmasters. Eternity Vault is being caused by part of that where the Dreadmasters got released and more of what is happening there on Belsavis. Eternity Vault is
Yep.
on Belsavis. Karaga's Palace is is instigated by the Dreadmasters. They cause that to happen, which is Karaga is now invading the galaxy because the Dreadmasters are encroaching on territory. Explosive conflict is directly the Trandoshan leader Kefis is building up a mercenary army on behalf of the Dreadmasters. You got need to go kill Kefis. Terror from Beyond is the Dreadmasters trying to summon this extra dimensional threat to destroy the galaxy, and they bring Kefis back for that one. Scum and Villainy has a Dreadmaster that you go and fight. Dread
At the end, yeah.
Fortress has another Dreadmaster, which is the entrance to the palace where they've taken over on Oricon. And then the final bit where you sort of wrap up the Dreadmaster story is the Dread Palace. So I mean, if you like that story, if you like what the Dreadmasters, the threat to the galaxy that they represent, it goes all the way through the Dread Palace. Very cool. Dread Palace is solidly in the C tier
Yeah.
because while it's a tight it's a tight operation. It's really cool. It's got 5 fights. There's 4 boss fights because there's 4 boss rooms, 4 sort of domains of each of the 4 remaining living that you haven't fought already. There's 6 Dreadmasters. 2 of them you've sort of defeated already. 4 more remain. You go into each of their domains and fight them. Each of their domains, though, the little room that represents their domain, is quite complicated. And in fact, if you do it wrong in a couple of the fights, if you like go in the wrong place or go in you pick the orange portal versus the blue portal, you didn't know what you were supposed to
Or
go into a
no
portal,
portal,
you'll
then you
die.
just die. Yeah.
A
Again,
lot of that kind of stuff going on.
gotta be voice for these 2.
You stand on, Bestia, my pets are legion, behold. You stand in the wrong place, you stand in one of the blood pools, you'll die. You stand on one of the wrong platforms for fire guy, whatever his name is, you die. Raptus, you get teleported away. You might not know what's going on when you get teleported in Raptus. So yeah, it gets crazy. And is it Tyrans who's future and past?
No, Tyrans is the disappearing floor.
Disappearing floor.
Calpheus is the future and past.
Calpheus is future and past. Awesome fights, very cool design, very unique fights. And then you fight all of them together in the throne room, which again has unique abilities. And there's one that you can only damage when you're up close, and there's other ones that you need to kite, and somebody needs to do a job, and blah, blah, blah.
I mean,
Cool.
multiple people have to tank Dreadmasters in the council fight, which is the last fight in Dread Palace. So yeah,
Like 3.
you might be
Yeah.
yeah. So
Like I, as a DPS, kite Raptus during the Dread Council fight, because that's sort of your job until 2 of the other bosses are taken care of.
and I would just say healing is tricky on that fight if you're not familiar with it, because the room is bigger than the range of your heals. So if you are trying to heal someone and the person that's tanking Raptus, kiting Raptus, is out of your range, and then and you look up and you try to find them because you're not familiar and you don't know where they went, it's yeah, it can mess with your head. It's not the only fight where the room is bigger than your range, but it's one of the early ones.
Yes. Ravagers. So I put Ravagers. I was thinking Ravagers, and I think it's justified, except for one fight, which maybe you'll just die. Ravagers, I think, is kind of
Anything in
C
Torque?
tier these days. No, the Master Blaster.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. And Master Blaster kind of requires at least the majority of the group understands what's going on and probably is in voice.
Thema says if you get in a pug and you do Master Blaster and you're successful, you can pat yourself on the back.
Yes. So Ravagers is not part of any story. Ravagers is a side story, and it's really fun. It's cool. It's got a lot of good humor in it. It's got some easy fights in it. First fight is relatively easy. Just shoot the dog and shoot some of the little dogs and shoot the big dog. Bulo, the when his
The
drunken
first
pirates,
the first fight,
awesome.
like a lot of fights, is all about the tanks.
Yeah,
So if
yeah.
you're not
The tanks have a
tanking,
job, and second fight too. Bulo is just the tanks have a hard job. The third fight, the tanks have a hard job. And the fourth fight, the tanks have a pretty hard job. Yeah, the tanks need to know the mechanics a lot, but nobody else needs to do a lot more than, he just DPS
so
and do some DPS.
I've never tanked an operation, but it seems like a good path to follow if you do want to tank operations is to first DPS or heal them
Yeah.
until you are familiar with them.
Yep.
And even then you won't be familiar enough because
Right.
tanking is different, but
Right.
it would be a start.
Eflex says, "Don't stand under the door. You can't give those things away. That's the fun part for new people. Don't stand under the door when the first
It's the
fight
fun
starts."
it's the fun part for us when we have new people.
Right. That's where you make up all the places that there are. Oh yeah, I think there's a lore object down there. Why don't you
Just
jump in that
jump.
hole? uh,
We
yeah,
got you.
so that's a good one.
Oh, that makes me happy. Thank you.
Uh, so yeah, Master Blaster is a very tough fight, fun fight. But there's a big giant droid, and he calls down it's a astromech that's bigger than you, but it's a small astromech and a big droid, and you fight them as a team. Very funny, good dialogue, good voiceover, and but there's like this giant platform that you're fighting on, but like minuscule. There's like 10 pixels that you need to stand in in each of the phases, and you need to know where those are. So that's what
I
makes
mean,
that one
this
hard.
fight, Master Blaster, used to just make me mad. And it's another really big room. And the tanks are oftentimes not in range of each other. So, yeah.
Right. And now we start getting into a series where I would say not only is it more difficult and you need to know where to go, but now is where we need to start also doing a lot of DPS. And this next one, and we just experienced this past week. This was just on Tuesday, wasn't it? Yeah, Temple of Sacrifice. So Temple of Sacrifice is the first one I'm putting down in the D tier, because so this is Shadow of Revan. So this is the culmination of the Shadow of Revan story. Great operation to do. A lot of the operation isn't too bad mechanically, but there you do get to a couple fights in here where you do it is a bit of a DPS check. The second fight in particular, and that's what we ran into on Tuesday because we were running with a couple new people and we were running with an incomplete group. We were running a 16-man Temple of Sacrifice with 2 people or 3 people that had never been in there before, and we were missing like 3 people. We were like 13 out of 16, and we hit the enrage timer on the 2
The, the
Imperial
walkers.
walkers,
Yeah.
which is a cool fight. Not too hard. A lot of stuff going on though. Not too hard to die or cause other people to die.
We did get the
And you
walkers
do need
down,
to,
though, when a couple people.
yeah, we pulled a
Yeah.
couple people in and we completed it. And we're carrying a couple of people that hadn't seen it before, but by that point they had seen the fight, 2 or 3 times.
Right.
We one shot Underlurker, or two shot or one shot Underlurker, which wasn't too bad. And then we were done for the night. So that took us about, an hour, 45 minutes, just to get through that much. And there's 2 more fights. The next fight is not too bad. It's the 4 Revanite leaders who are fun and cool and each have a different mechanic, and you sort of like fight them separately and fight them together,
Woo!
with like 100 ads running around the room. But that's not a tough fight. So it's probably the easiest
Jerkadeer,
fight.
my warriors.
Jerkadeer, my warriors. Yeah. And then there's the last fight, which again isn't, I think DPS wise, that isn't too bad, but there's quite a bit going on. It's similar to the way SOA's got a bunch of platforms. You have to deal with a little bit of that. You have to deal with a little bit of like Revan is like throwing rotating lightsabers across the room that you need to dodge, and there's a big
You have
hole
to
in the
do a
middle, and
you have to do a little careful jumping because you can jump off this. You can miss and fall
but it's
down.
not like in the heat of the moment, like where DPS is. So be careful when you jump, but you got time, and nothing
Yeah.
is going on when you need to do the jumps up the platform. HK-47 comes out and joins the fight. You got to fight him a little bit. It's very cool, and then you're trying to finish the story. You're trying to deal with what the this uh what's going on. I'll leave it so I don't spoil too much there for
Yeah.
people who have then gone through the Revan story. But yeah, gets a little more difficult, mechanically difficult, and DPS difficult. And this next one even more so. So solidly in the D tier is where you get to Gods from the Machine. It's long. You got to do a lot of DPS to get through it, and the mechanics are serious.
I
Um,
mean, I think I would only pug Gods from the Machine if the group was a real group and they were just missing a healer in my case.
yep, and
Because
was in voice.
and was in voice, right?
Yeah, very very cool. This is later. This is on Iocath. This is part of the post after the end of Knights of the Fallen Empire, Knights of the Eternal Throne. Part of what happens there is Iocath gets discovered. It's a Dyson sphere, and the gods are awoken inside of this Dyson sphere, and you go into the operation, and you're fighting the 5 gods from this machine. Very very cool. Each one of the gods that you fight, they're giant. They're basically giant robots, but very unique in their fights. Very cool fights, and then, one of them is actually twins, so it's actually 6, but it's 5 fights. Uh, you win, the drops off of this are life-size versions of these giant droids that
Yeah, in the
are
deck.
that with their idle animation that are alive that you've probably seen in my stronghold. So that is super, super cool. But definitely difficult mechanics, difficult to know where to stand and what to do, and you have extra stuff you need to do, and you have to be doing a solid amount of DPS throughout the place.
Yeah, Intisar, man, I can't talk. Comments that he's led a lot of new groups through Grods, but that everyone needs to be in voice. And he
Yeah.
also says that everyone has to understand the mechanics ahead of time, which
Yeah, if you're gonna get through it in a reasonable amount of time and not take 4
right.
hours.
So like you can just ask yourself, am I capable of watching a video and absorbing some of the mechanics before I go in there? And if the answer is oh, ready for tier of operations yet.
Yeah. Also in the category, probably mechanically not as difficult, I would say. You could probably get carried through the mechanics a little bit more, but you need to do even more DPS, is Nature of Progress. This is Duxon. So this is again a side story at the time of Osis Onderon. When Onderon and Duxon is the moon that rotates around Onderon or revolves around Onderon. The idea is Onderon is the planet, Duxon is the moon, where a bunch of vile creatures have evolved, and as the Duxon moon dips through the Onderon atmosphere, the creatures can actually in history in Onderon's history have passed back and forth between them through the atmospheres somehow. Completely impossible. That's fantasy. That can't happen in actual space systems. But that's the idea of what's going on there. Duxon has, because it's got this cool set of vile creatures, who better than Zerka Corporation to take advantage of that and figure out what they can monetize. So there's a Zerka Corporation compound on Duxon that has gone bad, and you're going there to sort of figure out what's going on. So you're fighting through this broken down. I mean, you're actually fighting through abandoned cubicles and in the office building at one point. Super, super cool. And then you get to fight some of their both failed and successful experiments along the way too.
So
Um,
I feel like nature progress, you definitely need to know the mechanics, but they're not as hard as the mechanics in God from the Machine.
right, right.
Gods from the Machine, yeah.
Yeah, I think you could probably just sort of like follow along and get away with it a little bit easier, but now you've got also need to be doing a solid amount of DPS that's not gonna put it up on the level of like a
Right,
Ravager.
like the last boss in Nature of Progress, as long as somebody knows how to run the battery,
Yeah,
you can just shoot the boss.
that's just a that's nothing for a DPS. That one's nothing for a DPS. As long as you avoid the lightning and know when to go behind a rock for the lightning, or even the gauntlet when you're run from all the beasts. Just shoot what everyone else is shooting in both of those fights, and you're fine. You do need to. The Huntmaster fight is a little more complicated. You do need to know what you're doing there with the
But
fire.
it that fight, I totally agree with what you just said, but it also kinda makes sense, and the telegraphs are really clear compared to some of the stuff in Gods from the Machine.
The
Like, you can
Yeah,
easily
right.
do who's that guy in the round room in Gods from Machine? Nar Nahut,
Nahut,
Nahut. That
Nahut.
game, I mean, that fight, you could it's it's easy to, like, be in that whole fight and not understand what the telegraphs are actually doing, so
Yeah, as long as they don't pass you the candle also to
yeah,
to
and
to
the
light them up.
candle, right. And the part that gets sucked you into the room, and then the ads that
Yeah,
shooting lightning
that's
at
the
people, and then the
singularity.
room that gets bigger and you have to stay in a smaller and smaller lane, and
Yeah,
yeah.
and way, way down here at the F tier, in terms of what you should just be
Sweet.
pugging and jumping
Yeah.
into, is the R4 Anomaly Story Mode, because this is more difficult than everything else by a this is probably more difficult than most of the other vet modes of all of these other operations, and even though it's in story mode. So yeah, this one you start getting into difficult mechanics. In fact, our group has been working on it for months now.
Yeah.
Not every week, and we've taken like a month or two off, but we have not finished the last fight. We can get all the other fights, um, no
Yeah, not
problem.
N
But
tier for not really story mode, says Eflux.
yeah, that one's a crazy one, and definitely designed to be a new end game operation. So yeah, it's a story mode up that regular story mode raiders typically don't complete. You need to be a vet mode capable group, and probably even nightmare capable for something like Eternity Vault, to be in R4 Anomaly story mode. But yeah, it's still cool and fun. Not saying it's not. In fact, it's
And
one of my
people
favorite right
do
now. I'm
create
loving
pug
it.
groups for all of these, and they can be very successful. We're
Yeah,
we're s we're we are, just talking to the person who's not familiar with ops in general, and where do I start?
right, right. If you've got a solid group that knows the mechanics, and you're an experienced player, you can plug any of these, especially in story mode. Go, or vet mode or nightmare mode. Go for it. If everyone knows what they're doing, for sure. But newer players, players that aren't in full 336, yeah, don't jump into R4 as your first one, especially. You won't be very happy.
We have nicknamed the first boss in there IP Daily.
Yes, because it is the IP droid and IP daily. This is something that's funny to say.
Yes.
Okay, I left them off, but I actually made little icons for them. We're, we got a couple minutes. Should we just like name off the lair bosses
Sure.
real quick? I think
Yeah.
I'll even copy over the. So we've the lair bosses are Tabor's Courtyard, Colossal Monolith, Genosian Queen, Xeno Analyst, and the Eyeless. The last two are event bosses only, but they are just something to say. So this leaves out all of the world bosses and a couple special quote unquote world bosses that are like that dreadful entity and the hateful entity, which are kind of more world bosses, but they are actually in the operations. They're in Terror from Beyond and Scum and Villainy, but they're special cased. We're gonna leave those out completely. Plus, they're
And those are
F
not no
tier.
one's forming pugs for
Yeah,
those on Fleet.
Dreadtooth, 10 stack, Dreadful Entity, Hateful Entity. Those are all F tier. Forget about it. The rest of the world bosses, almost all the other world bosses except Nightmare Pilgrim are definitely S tier. Just do them all. Just do any of the
Can
other
you
world
move the
bosses.
lair bosses over a little bit so we can
Oh
see them
yeah,
all? Because
they're sort of
our
behind you
face
there.
is in the way.
But let's go through this before it gets too late here.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I don't. In fact, I don't remember what I had this. So let's just slot them real quick. Toboro's Courtyard, probably S tier. You could probably do this anytime, right?
I would say if there's a
Or
group
anytime.
forming for Deborah's Courtyard, go for it.
Yeah.
And I would say the same for the eyeless.
They will tell you when to just there's one mechanic there, just don't stand in the laser when he turns brown, and this
And
says,
yeah,
the eyeless as a DPS or healer, you're mostly just gonna be standing in the middle and, just if you're
the main.
melee, you gotta get out of the purple circles, but some they'll tell you, and you can do that
Yeah.
one.
I mean,
Even
the
Xeno
main
Analyst.
thing I would tell you about healing the eyeless is just make sure you keep the tank up. If other people are taking damage, just still prioritize the tank.
It's easy to get carried through Xeno Analyst these days too. I would even put that up there.
Yeah. And I think because they're popular to do, a lot of people know how to pug them and
And you can, like, skip mechanics that you used to have to
yeah.
do on
Yeah.
this and that kinda thing. 2 of the lair bosses, which are up all the time, you could do them with this. One is on Ziost, which is Colossal Monolith, and another one's the Genosian Queen on Osis. Boy, I'm getting all the old planets right tonight. What's going
I would
on?
say I would say Colossal Monolith is maybe the only fight we've talked about tonight where you can actually prevent your team from being successful if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, I might even put this in D tier.
I mean, it's
Probably not
easy, but
F tier.
if you do it's one mechanic wrong,
I don't even
the
think it's
boss
that
will
easy.
never die.
Yeah, I don't even think it's that easy. I think you gotta be, like, hitting them hard too.
Oh, wait, are we talking about the indoor one? Yeah,
The
no, he's
indoor
hard.
one.
Never mind, never mind, I was
The
completely on the
World
wrong
Breaker is
thing.
the outside world
Yes,
boss.
that's who I was thinking of. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
the lair one, I agree, definitely. Yeah.
And then Genosian Queen, either C or D also. Probably C. I think
See? Yeah.
we've in fact, maybe even B.
'Cause I think you can do Genosian Queen even if
We've
nobody does anything with eggs and
and we've carried
stuff.
people through it these
Yeah.
days. It gets a little crazy. You might wipe a couple times, but again, because it's a lair boss, maybe we'll allow it in B.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are fun ones. Uh, cool. These are your operations and your lair boss, your operations. We'll count them, which I think is close. I think there was only one thing that was different. I think I had scum. Nope, that's exactly what I kind of thought beforehand too. So there we go.
So really, I would say for sure focus on Eternity Vault, Karaga's Palace, Toboro's Courtyard, and the event bosses.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, this is if you're just gonna go pug it off by yourself. If you wanna come with us, more options, but
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
And
So you're
we'll take you into anything and everything. We might not
right.
get all the way through it, but we'll do it all.
Yeah.
All right, Seema.
Those
Any
are
other
those are
final?
some nice looking icons you came up with.
Look at. I just wanted to flip through them while we're going. I found like good screenshots for each one of them, and then I made the little icon for each one of them. I actually spent a
What
bunch of time on
what
this
font
today,
is that?
but that's Berlin Sans semi bold.
Oh, okay. It looks nice.
I've used that quite a bit. The Berlin. Um, yeah, I was pretty proud of these, and it's a good screenshot to represent each one of them too.
Yeah, it is.
So I was pretty proud of myself. Um, yeah. Anything else to sort of wrap us up then, Seema?
I would just say in general, if you're gonna pug operations, just be philosophical. Don't worry about other people's attitudes. Don't take it home with you. You don't know who these people are, and you don't know who you're gonna be connecting up with. Or you might meet gems for sure. That's happened, but just have a thick skin.
Where did I put the eyeless? Because there's one. Yeah, eyeless is definitely S tier. Not only because it's the eyeless, but because boss butt.
Yeah,
Again,
yeah.
one of the
And
one
there's
of the top 3 butts in the game.
the eyeless has a possibility of a pet.
Yes. Yes, and the eyeless, well, it's mostly in vent mode though. Eyeless is
Oh,
where
is it?
is the rare rackling drops off of eyeless. but you'll get other currency off of Islas that you want for the event, which you can buy good decos and extra prizes. There's actually like 3 different currencies that get mixed together to buy stuff off of Jilvik, the Jawa that's down in the Rekul tunnels. But the Islas drop some of that currency as well. One of the currencies that you need, barnacles or something. But yeah, uh, best experience for a new player though is get a guild, get a bunch of friends that are new player friendly, and have people bring it in. And that's what our guild does all the time. Well, we bring people new in. That's what our Tuesday night is designed around, and that's definitely the best experience for you to go through. So, highly recommend that. Hopefully everyone had fun. I like doing these tier list things. This is our second one. I kind of like it. Maybe we'll do more of them. Maybe we'll redo this, but actually just ranking how good the operations are in the game.
Mm.
Maybe we'll do it that way. But I think that is it for now. We can take our EPC
What's your
475
favorite
droid.
one of all these, personally?
It changes. Every time we do one, I say this is my favorite. Uh, yeah, it's difficult. I like this techie sci-fi-ish ones more than
Mhm.
others. I like
Terror from Beyond and
Terror
Gods
from
from the
Beyond,
Machine.
Gods from the Machine, Nature of Progress, and Our Form Anomaly is probably on the edge. I like it right now because it's new and we're progressing, but I'm probably between Terror, Gods, and Nature of Progress. And maybe even because Gods just can be so long on the Isaacs fight, maybe between Terror and Nature, Duxon and TFB. And if I had to pick one of those right now, it'd probably be Duxon.
So,
Today it would be Duxon.
Eternity Vault was one of the things that made me fall in love with this game. So I guess it would be really hard for me to knock it off its pedestal. So Eternity Vault is still my favorite.
That's a good one.
And I feel like Eternity Vault and Karaga's Palace and Explosive Conflict are all examples of how you can make an operation accessible but still have interesting mechanics.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they're great.
Whereas God
Yeah,
from the
they're great.
Machine, Nature Progress, are for it. They all have interesting mechanics, but they're not accessible.
Less, yeah, definitely.
Okay, they're less accessible.
Right. All right. So with that, definitely send us your feedback on what your favorites are and whether you agree with us or that you think that we're insane. Post that in the comments on YouTube or jump in our Discord and let us know. But you'll get this on the feeds if you want to check it again from our EPC 475 Astromech, which is going to broadcast this out across the galaxy. All the feed and subscribe links, if you want to find this stuff, are on newoverlords.com, and our YouTube feed is youtube/newoverlords. You can come chat with us in our Discord, as we mentioned, at newoverlords.com/Discord. That'll take you right there. Sign you up for it. Follow on Twitter and Instagram and Threads and all the places. Just look for Max the Gray or New Overlords or The New Overlords, depending on the platform, if I could get that name. And we'll keep you up to date there. I sort of do some of the feed stuff in a lot of those places these days. For our guild, as we mentioned, we got our good big guild event week coming up next week. The Aleactus Guild on Starforge, and in all the games that we play, check out aie-guild.org, and the Discord link for that is right there on the main page. Jump in there in our Discord. There's the SWTOR section. We've got guilds on the Imperial and the Republic side. We would love to get you an invite. We'll bring you in. We'll make you part of the community. And with that, we will talk to you soon.
Later, everyone.